Hi guys, it's Bones McKay, and today I would like to talk to you about how I go about designing characters. And for the purpose of this, we're going to assume that you've already created the character, like you've got their character profile written down, you know exactly like how they're going to work in this story, you've got your script, you've got all that, and now you're designing the character. When I start thinking about a character design, I distill it down to two parts. You got your first part, which is the function of a character, and your second part, which is the readability of that character. And these are intertwined. Function comes before readability. So, what is function? Function is the purpose of a design. And for the purpose of character design, you have your very specific functions and you have your general functions. For general functions, we're talking about things that apply to all characters. Those would typically be like, you want your character to be distinctive from all the other characters, and you want your character to be comprehensible. Most all characters should be distinctive from the rest of the cast and should be comprehensible. There are obviously some exceptions. Now, specific functions are probably what you need to consider the most. These are things you might not even consider as functions, rather character traits. And the reason that I would call them functions is that in character design, for your character to work, it needs to show what kind of character it is. A sports player guy needs to look like a sports player guy. A mean sports player guy looks different from a cuddly sweet sports player guy. What the fuck is a sports player guy? I don't know. I think I'm imagining a football boy. A football boy. Oh god. Where am I? You get my point. These character traits end up being the functional parts of a design. So you need to be able to show nice. You need to be able to show guy. You need to be able to show sports player. And eventually you'll distill the character down into like what you need to have. And these can be very simple things to very complex things. Because not only can you show your nice sports player guy, your mean sports player guy, you can also functionally show a mean sports player guy who is secretly holding back a nice side, who also really likes Lord of the Rings. Like, you can show all of these things, and if they're important, they are part of your function list. If it is very important to know something about a character, it better goddamn be in their design. If you need to know a character is a pirate, put an eye patch on that mother frickin' pirate. If you need to know that this character likes dogs, slap a puppy right on her hoodie. If it needs to be shown, it is part of your character design. What needs to be shown? The story will dictate that to you. Now, moving outward from here, away from function, you get that. You get the whole, okay, I need to show this. How do you show this? How do you create something distinct? How do you create something comprehensible? And that how is your readability. Readability is something you already know how to do. You already know how to read a character. You just need to start thinking about it more. So when you begin with a character and you're looking to make things distinct, you've probably heard this advice before, but you need to be able to tell all of your characters apart from each other by the silhouette. To create two different silhouettes, think again of sports player guy. Now imagine goth girl. Now imagine them just in silhouette, and you sort of will get the point. And the reason you want to create this striking silhouette is because A, you might be showing characters in silhouette at some point, and B, when someone's reading through your comic, they will take maybe a second at most to look at a panel. And in that second, they need to get everything. So if your design is effective and functional, it's going to give them it like that. They're not going to take 2 seconds to be like, wait, who is that? No, it's sports player guy. He's the best guy ever. He's so mean from the outside, but when I look at him closer, I realize he's got a sweetheart. Inside, he's a good boy. Good boy, sports player guy. So create a silhouette. That doesn't mean just drawing a silhouette. That can be helpful to sort of like map out the sort of silhouette, but just think about it. Like occasionally black everything out and look and see how you're doing on the silhouette front. And just like as you're sculpting out your character, pay attention to the silhouette. Pay attention to what it's signifying, how it's serving your functions. If you're making sports player guy and you start to realize that you're getting this really lanky, like long rectangle silhouette, you might be going in the wrong direction. Because like when I think of sports player guy, I think he's got like sort of that triangle physique. When you think of him even outside of like his sports player gear, he should also still reflect that, because if that's a large part of his personality, when you take the clothes off of him, you kind of want to have that bulky look to him still. The second part to silhouette is the shape composition of your character. What shapes are they built of? And I'm not talking about the major shapes, though those kind of will reflect everything. But you know what different shapes mean. Something that's pointy feel different than something that is rounded. So you can have a large square-looking character with rounded corners, and they're gonna give off a different vibe than a very square-shaped person who's got jagged edges. An exemplary version of this is in Steven Universe, which I'm sure you know about, where Steven is built up of heart shapes, Amethyst is built out of circles, Pearl is built out of like pointy sticks and triangles, and Garnet's built out of squares. And just think about what that says. Think about the implications of a box or like a square. It's sturdy, you know? You can trust a square. Whereas you got like triangles, which are kind of prickly, and then you can think of like the soft edges of a heart and what that implication gives. You know, you probably have a greater understanding of what different shapes mean than you think. Next, I will focus on like harmonizing your character design elements. I'm sure you've probably seen this on DeviantArt back in the day, and that's having too many design elements. It's exemplified by Sparkle Dogs, that whole craze. When you add too many competing elements, you end up saying nothing, because it becomes a whole bunch of incomprehensible noise to you. When you focus on creating design elements, you want them all to serve your function. You don't want to overcomplicate here. I would distill things down into 3 or 4 design elements, maybe 5. As you add more, you're gonna lose another key element of design, which would be repetition. And this specifically becomes a problem when you're working on a main character. When you're looking at a main character, you're going to need to be able to see them from multiple angles and multiple cropped angles too. You want your main character to have feet that match his ears, which match his hands, which match his back. And in order to do this, you can repeat design elements. If you're building a character and they wear ribbons, you put ribbons throughout that outfit. That way, when you're looking at a shot of just their legs, you're gonna know whose legs they are. It's overlooked, but it's very significant. And I've run into problems with my older character designs where if you're looking at them from the legs down, they do not match the character you most often see from just a mid-shot. A way to balance this out is to split your character into quarters, and each quarter should easily be matched with the next. And you can test this even further by giving giving each quarter to someone and getting them to guess whose design is this. And if you have an effective design, they'll be able to look at a foot and be like, oh, that's my foot. Why did you take my foot? Please call an ambulance. And finally, once you get your shapes, you get your silhouette, you get all your design elements together, you're still not ready to use this character. I don't care how many renditions you've gone through, how much distilling you've gone through, you're gonna have to put this character in motion. And by that I don't mean animating. Draw them picking up things, draw them running, skipping, dancing, anything and everything you can think of. And do the exact same thing with their expressions. Push their expressions. Show everything you can. Because putting yourself through this will prepare you for when you're in your comic and have to do it at the drop of a hat. Now, you can go at your comic. Everyone knows this happens, but you go through your comic, and by chapter 3, you have finally gotten a sense of these characters. You finally get how they move. Then comes chapter 4, and there's a new character, and you have to discover them all over again. It gets really difficult, and it's really easy to see a character's development happening on the page. Maybe that's what you like to see in a comic. You like to see the development, but if you want something that's polished all the way through, push these characters before you get there. But I feel like just looking at other people's comics and seeing the progression, you'll kind of see how putting these characters in motion really starts defining them and really starts shaping their design. It's sort of like your characters are fresh out of the box when you first get your design, and then you start playing with them, and corners wear down, squeaky parts get fixed, and all of the nitty-gritty stuff really happens when you start moving these characters. And then, after you've done that, go back to the drawing board. Now that you really understand the movement, you can start enhancing it with more character-specific design elements. Maybe things aren't working. You gotta retool, retweak. And that is my final and most main point about character design, is it doesn't happen in an hour. It doesn't happen in 10 minutes. It's a process, and it's going to take however long it's going to take. And you will thank yourself for it later when you have to draw some crazy ass pose that you wrote into your comic for whatever frickin' reason. With all of that being said, if you're new, if you've never done a comic before, I can't stop you from going right in with a new character and just like seeing how it works. In fact, that's how you might start understanding character design further. But this is just my advice. Think about function, think about readability, and you're going to go so many places, and it's going to be so great. And above anything else, I will once again say, get critiques. Get someone to look at your character. I find the best way to test a character is take your character, after writing down every function you want to see, every characteristic you want to show, give this character to someone and say, tell me everything about them. How old are they? What gender are they? How tall are they? I don't know. Like, everything that you need to know. See if they can get it. And if they can get it, you're on the right track. And if they aren't getting it, your readability is failing you. That was my very impassioned speech about character design, and I hope that you enjoyed it, and I hope that you enjoy listening to me in general. Thanks for listening, guys. My dog's tired and she needs my help. Bye.